Hutchinson City Council meeting for Tuesday, August 24th, 2021. We'll call the meeting to order. Approve the council agenda and any agenda additions or corrections.
Mayor and Council, excuse me, I have one addition for your consideration. You can add it under new business, maybe item 14.5, and it has to do regarding the suspension of our noise ordinance for an event that's taking place on September 12th.
I'll make a motion to approve with that change.
Second. Motion by Chad, second by Dave to approve the agenda with the change. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We do not have an invocation tonight, so we'll just have a moment of silence, please. Next is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Recognitions of gifts, donations, and community service to the city. Does anybody have anything tonight? All right, we do have a proclamation, welcoming week. Whereas the city of Hutchinson acknowledges and celebrates the fact that the United States of America is a nation of people with diverse backgrounds, and our country's culture and economic richness is rooted in the diversity and the promise of freedom, equality, and opportunity. And whereas Hutchinson, since its founding, is a community that values the fresh perspectives and ideals contributed by the people of diverse backgrounds and experiences, and is committed to providing a welcoming environment in which all residents have the opportunities to strive, grow, and succeed. And whereas the fostering of a welcoming environment and treating all individuals with compassion and respect, regardless of their background, enhances Hutchinson's culture fabric, economic growth, and overall prosperity for the current and future generations. And whereas the Hutchinson tries to be a welcoming place where people, families, and institutions strive to, and the contributions of all are all celebrated and valued. And whereas Hutchinson is committed to ensure a welcoming and neighborly atmosphere in our community where all people are welcomed, accepted, and encouraged to participate fully in civic life and feel like they belong. And whereas Hutchinson is stronger and greater when we work together towards those core American values and afford everybody the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Now, therefore, I, Gary Forcier, Mayor of Hutchinson, do hereby proclaim the week of September 10th through the 19th, 2021 as Welcoming Week in the city of Hutchinson, Minnesota, and encourage all residents and institutions to greet their neighbors and those that they don't know and participate in one or more of the Welcoming Week events taking place in our community. Tracy, you guys want to come up and touch on this subject?
I would love to. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Name and address, please.
My name is Sandy Tracy, and I live at 829 Greensview Court Northwest in Hutchinson. And my husband and I have been a resident of the area for 50 years. We've been in and out of town a couple different times. We moved back in about 6 years ago and are enjoying being involved with different city-level activities. So Mayor Forstier and Administrator Janich.
Yannick, close enough, so. Nobody gets it right, so.
It was Janich, is it Janich?
Yannick.
Okay, all right. I always learn something new, so that's wonderful, thank you.
He don't care, just don't call him late for supper.
I won't do that, okay. Well, thank you for your genuine support of our Belonging Begins With Us event. This event has been planned by a grassroots group of organizations, nonprofits, churches, and others who share your desire for a welcoming community where everyone feels a sense of belonging. A news release will come out shortly with more details about the event and the organizers and a list of the organizers and details about how people can become involved. Doug Hanneman, who's with me today, has prepared the release, and he can answer any questions about the organizations that are involved about that with you. Well, you are right. He would be. Okay, the kickoff event will occur on Sunday, September 12th from 12 to 4 at the Masonic West River Park. The event will include food vendors, an interactive musical performance, games, and opportunities to meet new people and share in the mayor's enthusiasm for the overall theme of Belonging Begins With Us. You can also notice my t-shirt available online from the national organization that is, kind of driving this whole movement, which we decided to participate in. Similar events are being held throughout Southwest Minnesota in a variety of formats as planned by the local communities. The Southwest Initiative has provided the role of coordinating these events to correspond with a national effort to unite communities in their vision of diversity and inclusion of any people who feel marginalized for whatever reason. So grab your lawn chair on September 12th and join us at the river for an afternoon of fellowship and inspiration about what is possible. Belonging begins with us, all of us. So we'll see you there. Any questions?
Doug, I don't know if you want to touch on, or Sandy, either one. I know there's a couple events going on within the community. Obviously, this is one of them. I think the library is doing some stuff, the college. I don't know if you wanted to share on all the different aspects that are going on over the
And some of it is still emerging. We don't have a playbook to follow because this hasn't been done in Hutchinson before, so we meet every week at 3 o'clock just to kind of say, well, what have you got? What do you need? What are your questions? And it's really an interesting group of people. And we're learning a lot just about each other through this process of organizing this event. Yeah, the kickoff event is the main thing. There will also be a community book read. There will be other follow-up activities. The library, I know, is doing a lot of research to put together materials that are helpful for kids to read about a variety of topics dealing with race and welcoming and those sorts of things, and that will be available. At the event itself, there will be tables of information provided by many of the organizations, so you can visit with them and find out what's happening and what's going on. But you started it all by signing that proclamation, so we really thank you, sir.
Sandy, it's the Sounds of Hope is the concert?
Yes, the concert is by a group called Sounds of Hope. Now, this is a group that normally puts on a concert. They have a 6-week summer camp where they bring in kids from all over the world, and they end up putting on a performance using these kids, and the kids will sing songs in their native language or other native languages, and it's very intercultural and covers the entire country. Well, they haven't been able to do that the last 2 years because of COVID. They've not been able to have the summer camp, but we invited the musicians and the people that organize this event to come out, and they're putting together a special program just for our event that's going to be interactive, so they're going to be kind of talking back and forth with people, and I don't know, we might even do a little singing, who knows? But it's the group Sounds of Hope, which is out of Minneapolis. Any other questions or anything else you'd like to know?
Okay, you gotta at least say something.
My address. 17165-236. There are 10 different organizations around the community that are sponsoring this event. There's, behind it. It's the Center for the Arts, the library, Hutchinson Connects, Hutchinson Health, Hutchinson Public Library, Maplewood Academy, New Journey, United Church of Christ, Ridgewater College. Ridgewater will have a display of banners representing people from various lands who now live in the United States. River of Hope Lutheran and the Southwest Initiative Foundation. Maplewood Academy is bringing its flags for a display because so many students at Maplewood Academy come from all over the place, and so they'll be adding some real visual interest, with all their flags, and it's going to be a good time. What was the other one thing that you had mentioned about the food? We hope to have some food trucks, and I think that's about it.
Vendors and information tables sponsored by the other organizations that have helped put this
Yeah,
together.
rock painting.
Yeah, rock painting.
Yeah, fun stuff for kids.
I think there's going to be a bouncy house, couple bouncy house.
Yeah, we hope to,
kids,
yeah.
And I can't remember what the other games are. There's going to do a little flag football, and I can't remember what the rest of them are. But just different games that are organized kind of by age group.
Pinatas, yes.
Yeah.
8 pinatas by age group.
Don't worry, it's not gonna be you, Gary.
Yeah, good.
It's gonna be.
Well, I was worried about the painting because, in school Doug never stayed within the lines anyway, so.
So
Well,
in
rocks have no lines.
Okay, all right,
You can paint them
sounds
anywhere.
good.
So in other words, it is from noon to 4 on that Sunday.
Yeah.
And bring a lawn chair, or 12, I said noon to 4, right? 12 to 4, bring a lawn chair.
Yep.
Bring some money if you want to have something to eat,
Right?
enjoy the day, and if it rains,
Oh, Maplewood Academy is the rain site,
Our backup location.
the rain location.
And be ready to just kind of meet some new people and interact with others and sit down and have a conversation, find out people's stories. And we hope to do this every year. So this is our what do you call that word? Our
Inaugural.
Thank you. Our inaugural event. But we hope to do it every year, and we hope to even see it pop up in other locations and other events throughout the year as the movement begins to grow and as we really work on becoming a welcoming community. So,
We are already welcoming.
well, we
We're gonna be just even more so.
We're going to be even more so. That's right. Okay.
All
All
right,
right.
thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank
well,
you.
thank you.
Yep. Public comment, citizens addressing the council, just come forward. Alrighty, approval of minutes, we have the regular meeting minutes of August 10th, 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve those.
Second.
Motion by Mary, second by Pat to approve the minutes. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Consent agenda. Must be tired, my eyes, I can see. This will be done with one motion unless somebody pulls something off for discussion. A is approval of change order number 1, wastewater treatment facility headworks improvements, letting number 3, project number 21-03. B is approval of Cross Point Church block party event on August 29th, 2021. C is approval of out-of-state travel request for Sergeant Eric Killian to attend the National Tactical Officer Association National Conference in Kansas City, Missouri from September 11th through the 17th, 2021. D is approval of client lease amendment for RD Machine. E is approval of resolution number 15346, resolution withdrawing from the participation in the South Central Minnesota Regional Radio Board. F is approval of board appointments or reappointments. We have the appointment of Jerry Joe Redmond to the Public Arts Commission to August of 2024. Appointment of Kay Johnson to the Public Arts Commission to August 2024, and reappointment of Renee Cutlars to the HRA Board to August of 2026. And G is claims, appropriations, and contract payments, Register A. Is there anything anybody wants pulled off?
I would like E pulled off.
I will make a motion to approve the balance.
Second.
Motion by Dave, by Chad, second by Dave to approve the balance. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. E, Mary.
Well, I just had a question on that, and I see our chief is gonna come up and answer it. I mean, I've gone to those meetings. I just wanna make certain that, or find out if you guys are still going to be attending. The PD will still attend those.
No, we will not.
No, you're not. Okay,
So generally speaking, the regional radio board, a member of this council, sits on that. And then we, a member of the PD, always sat on the advisory committee to the board. So because we're withdrawing from the board, we'll no longer be attending the RAC meetings as well.
okay, that's what I wanted to know. I wanted that clarified.
All right, any other questions on that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I will make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Motion by Mary, second by Dave to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Consent agenda number 2, claims, appropriation, contract payments, Register B. I do have a check on there for my business, so I'll be abstaining.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Pat to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried with me abstaining. We can jump down, huh, Matt?
You know, I'm wondering, just because I know we have people in attendance, if you want to maybe do new business, and then we can go up, do public hearing and communications last.
Or which was do 13?
Sure. Yep.
All right. Resolution number 15345, resolution adopting findings of facts and reason for approval of a conditional use permit for a light manufacturing business in a C3 zoning district located at 125 Main Street North, Midwest Industrial Tool Grinding Incorporated, applicant with Split Planning Commission recommendation.
Good evening. As you'll recall, last month I was up here and we talked about the ordinance amendment for the downtown zoning district to allow light manufacturing uses as a conditionally permitted use. That ordinance did go into effect, and after that, Midwest Industrial Tool Grinding did apply for a conditional use permit to locate their business in the former Shopco building. Staff went to the Planning Commission with that project last week with a recommendation to approve the conditional use permit because it met all of the standards contained in the zoning ordinance. And
there was a little bit of discussion, and it ended up being a 3-to-1 vote for approval. I think there's just some general sense that some folks don't think that manufacturing should be downtown. Anyway, staff is still of the idea that it should be approved, meets all the ordinance standards and conditions that we have set forth. We did put about 4 or 5 conditions on this project, the most significant one being no storage of items outside other than in the enclosed in area in the back. That's not going to be an issue with the applicant. They're not intending on storing any items or materials or such outside. So with that, staff is still recommending approval. If you have any questions regarding this request, I'll certainly be happy to answer those.
I see that Eric's here, so Eric, want to come up and just introduce yourself? And I got a question for you.
Sure, Eric Lipke, Midwest Industrial Tool Grinding.
How many employees do you think you're going to have down at that site?
Right now, we have about 70 employees, and the site is about 3.5 times the size we are now, so I'm not sure how long it will take to get to a level where we're full there, but, or if it will be an equal ratio, but we expect a significant number of increase.
So really, it'd be no worse than when Shopko was there for the car amount of parking, right?
Sure, yeah, the parking's not an issue. You know, with retail, they turn over real quick, so people come and go the whole while.
Yeah.
And manufacturing use, you know, obviously at shift change, you know, lunch, maybe there's a little bit of turnover, but generally speaking, there's not nearly the traffic generation.
So Eric, what are your hours of operation? What will they be?
We're 24/5 with some 24/7. So as we keep growing, I would presume we'll be 24/7 most all the time.
So when you talk about 70 people, you're not talking about 70 cars there all the time, right?
Right,
It's
it's
shifts,
3 different
right?
shifts, correct. So obviously, day shift with the office staff is probably the biggest group, maybe a little over half.
Okay,
The rest of the time is split with the different shift groups.
all right, thank you.
Well, it's exciting. Yeah.
We're excited.
All right, with that, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the zoning change for Mitke.
I will second.
Motion by Pat, second by Mary to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck.
14.
We'll go to 14, setting council workshop for 4:30 on September 28th, 2021, for the annual update by the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities.
Yeah, mayor and council, they usually generally come out and want to meet with us and just kind of give an update on what's going on there. And so we generally try to do that. It's usually about a half hour, 45 minutes. So we try to do that before a meeting. So I'd ask you to consider calling that workshop.
I'd make a motion to set that meeting.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Pat to set that meeting on the 28th at 4:30. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
So I got some time. So if you want to go to 14.5.
You know, I'll shuffle it around that and now we're lost it.
Sure. 14.5 was the added agenda item that was regarding suspending the noise ordinance from noon to 4 p.m. on September 12th, 2021 for the event at the Masonic West River Park, which is obviously the event you guys just heard about. It's mainly due to obviously the music that's going to be played down there. We've done this quite frankly all the time when we have concerts or the whatnot down at that park. So this is more or less just a formal request to the city council to suspend that ordinance for that temporary time period.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mary, second by Dave to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
We still got some moments, so if you want to jump back up to item 10, you can do that.
Okay. Review of the City of Hutchinson Americans with Disability Act transition plan for the roadway corridor.
Yeah, I'll give a brief overview, quick introduction, and John Paulson's here who been shepherding, leading this effort for the last 3-4 years we've been working on this. But basically, what this is, and John did a good job of explaining it on the board action form, is it's really a document that's being required by the city through Mnpdes, the Department of Transportation, and they're really putting the onus on counties and cities to approve an ADA transition plan in order to receive federal funding. So that would be federal aid for road projects, bridge projects primarily. We have secured federal dollars for trail projects, not too long ago out on School and Roberts. So it's those dollars. What we're hearing is that may transition into our state aid funds also. So that really becomes meaningful. That's to the tune of $800,000, give or take, every year. So with that, like I just mentioned, this is basically an inventory and then an evaluation effort. Primarily it applies to sidewalks, trails, pedestrian curb ramps. We do have a few, rapid flashing beacon systems, crossing systems, and then we also analyze our public parking lot facilities. And there's priority areas. Ultimately, if you read the document itself and got into the appendices, we do assign some costs to it. It arrives to just under $1.4 million, we estimate in today's dollars. And then you may have also noticed there is really no hard commitment to deliver this. It says resources are available. It's really it's a legal mechanism for public agencies to show that they're being responsive to the ADA Act that was approved back in 1990.
But Ken, just to clarify, when we're doing new projects, we're implementing those new requirements to all.
We're doing it anyways on new projects. This is more so somebody can't say, hey city, you haven't done anything, down on 3rd Avenue or whatever street that was built 50 years ago. And we can say, well, we have a plan, we've identified these facilities, we have a plan to address them, thus don't sue us. And that this is really a mechanism to protect you legally that the state DOTs arrived at and now they're requiring of the local agencies. And with that, there's priority areas. There's a very good inventory effort that took quite a while, to go through all our sidewalks and our trails and then also the 1,200 almost pedestrian curb ramps. So. And now what we wanted to do is simply review it with council. We posted it on the city's website, and then we probably look forward to one of the meetings in September. We'll bring it back for your formal approval. We'll ask you to resolute your approval. I don't know if I missed anything, John?
I think it's important for the public and for the council to realize, even when we're doing new buildings, the new police station, all of those aspects of the ADA requirements are being met. And, now we're putting it to paper, especially for our transportation system, to let the public know that, we have a plan in place to address these issues when we get, when it gets time to updating and upgrading those roads. And so spend some time, take a look at that policy. And as Kent noted, we'll bring it back for formal approval at a later date. So.
Council, has any questions, thoughts? Thank you.
Larry?
6 o'clock, so you can move it up.
We'll go back up to public hearing. Consideration for approval of water, wastewater SCADA system improvements. Letting number 6, project number 21-6. We have resolutions underneath there. A is resolution number 153 1442, resolution ordering improvements and preparation of plans and specifications, and resolution number 15343, resolution approving plans and specifications and ordering advertisement for bids.
All right, Mayor and Council, yeah, what we want to do this evening is just do a formality like we do for basically all of our projects and administer a public hearing. And obviously, we're not expecting a lot of public input on this, but due to the scope and, you know, the cost of this project, I felt it was worthwhile to administer this and bring council up to speed. And, you know, if anybody in the public did have any concerns, yeah, obviously we wanna provide the opportunity to hear those. This was a handout that what Melissa passed out earlier. And basically what we wanted to provide was a simple outline, you know, some cost estimation information where we're at cost-wise at this point in time. And then on the bottom, into our anticipated project schedule. Yeah, we've spoken. Obviously, Pat, you weren't involved in the conversation, but we've spoken a fair amount about this with council as we put together a detailed report many months ago. The same consultant, technical consultant is now doing the final design for us, and really identified our SCADA needs at the water and wastewater facilities, and then out on the collection and distribution systems, respectively. I should mention SCADA stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. In a nutshell, it's basically your control system. It's, you know, it's your controls, and it's not only your controls, you know, it obviously, like it says there, it monitors, it you know, acquires data, and then it accumulates the data and then stores the data to some degree over time. But we've really come to a point where those systems need to be upgraded. We don't say so much here, but other than the project highlights, I get into a little bit more detail. But really, in summary, we have a system that isn't being technically supported. And it was a system that was arrived at when the water plant design was being developed in the early 2000s, and going into that construction and the final design, which you know, ultimately the documents were put together primarily in 04, 05, and then ultimately the water plant was built in 06. We mirrored that SCADA system at the wastewater plant when we did the membrane bioreactor improvements, that treatment train in 08. So they had the same SCADA system that was implemented, and afterwards, after that time frame, the industry, the technical support just kind of evaporated, and there became less and less people, less and less companies supporting it. Became somewhere as we you know, got more and more educated about it over the course of time. I think we began to learn that it maybe wasn't the right system for a water wastewater, you know, facility ideally. And really a lot of these systems are being used not only at plants, at water wastewater treatment plants, but are being used at you know, places like 3M, or, you know, anybody that, you know, paper mills, and anybody that, a variety of manufacturing, you know, plants. And what we're learning now is there's a SCADA system out there that we believe is really on the rise from what we hear, and is being more and more utilized by water and wastewater utilities. So this is good timing, we believe. It also addresses the hardware improvements. It gets into the PLCs. And yeah, in the end, you know, like I mentioned in the last you know, project highlight here is, I think the biggest thing is, you know, it's a new SCADA platform that improves, you know, operator interfaces on a day-to-day basis for our staffs at the water and wastewater treatment facilities. And the big thing is, it gets us back to having consistent technical support from the industry. With that cost estimate between the hardware, procurement and installation, the SCADA program, and commissioning of that, lift station panel upgrades. Basically, we sit right now, we have a handful of panels within the 11 lift stations on the wastewater collection system that haven't been upgraded. Some of you council members have probably gotten routinely used to us bringing forward a lift station project on an annual basis lately, but we want to just simply upgrade those panels in the lift stations so we can tie this new control system into those lift stations immediately within the context of this project. Otherwise, yeah, just the engineering services, obviously a very technical project, and like I said, I think we were fortunate to find the consultant we did a while back, and we've been very pleased with their efforts. And then we put in a little bit of a construction contingency amount to the tune of about 5%, give or take, and then that arrives at the total estimated cost of just short of $2 million, which is pretty close to our program number, but ultimately we'll see what the bids come in at on September 21st. And then, like mentioned below, yeah, the bidding phase ends on the 21st of September. We look to award. It'll be in October, hopefully the first meeting in October. And then we'll get going and looking at completing it next spring, April, May timeframes. And this ties into the Headworks project to some degree, so there's pretty good timing here as far as the control aspects that are playing out and will be required within the scope of the Headworks project out at the wastewater treatment facility. So, if council has any questions or Tim has anything to add?
Pretty good. We've had, informational sessions about this when we've been planning it all along, so we're pretty versed in that. Unless you have any questions.
All right,
Up for public comment?
we'll open it up for public comment. Entertain a motion to close the, oh, go ahead. Yep. Sure.
So the one question I have, because I haven't been up to
Carol.
on this is.
Carol.
I'm sorry. My name is Carol. My name is Carol Johnson, and I live at 550 Lakewood Drive, Southwest Hutchinson.
Thank you.
And the only question I have is, this is quite a chunk of money, $1,995,000. So I just want to know, how much is this going to affect the taxpayer, the city, and the water usage people, as far as the bills? And has this money, since they said that you had already been giving everybody the updates and information, I just would like to know if the taxpayers are aware of this coming bill.
Carol, there is no debt that's being issued, no added debt to the ratepayers. So basically, money we've already collected from ratepayers,
Okay.
the fund balance that we have is paying for this project.
Okay.
So that's part of what, we had a workshop at 4 where we talked about our capital improvement plan, where we plan for a lot of these large projects. And so there's actually been essentially money been set aside with user payments to help pay for this. So there's not going to have an impact on rates or the taxpayer.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comment? That motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second. Motion by Chad, second by Dave to close the public hearing. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We have 2 resolutions underneath there. Can we go on both?
Yep, if that's the desire of the council.
Right.
I'll make a motion to approve both of them.
I'll second.
Motion by Chad, second by Mary to approve both resolutions. Any other discussion? None? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Number 11?
Yep. Review of the wastewater treatment facility Mpcs, Npdes state disposal system permit.
You know what all those acronyms mean, right, too, Gary? So,
Yeah, it's where they get rid of the stuff.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. If you don't know,
John will inform us.
if you don't know, we're gonna walk through them one by one. We thought it'd be pertinent to update you. We've been talking about this for a while as well. The city's existing wastewater treatment facility permit, which allows us to discharge our wastewater plant treated water to the Crow River, expired about 4 years ago. We started the process to reissue the permit roughly about 2 years ago. We put it on hold because of some water quality rulemaking. I'll kind of walk through a list of bullet points here just to kind of give you a little bit of background, the pertinent information that's new within the permit. The permit itself is a 60-plus page document, and then there's a supporting 30-page document that's basically a fact sheet. That's typical of a wastewater treatment plant facility permit. Those permits are reissued on a 5-year rotating revolving basis, but those permits typically do expire. They're very technical. They follow water quality standards, which are constantly changing. Not all of them change all the time, but there's a lot of them. So those are all impacted by those changes that the MPCA implements. So yeah, they're very dynamic. MPCA recently changed their permitting software, so that has a bearing as far as what they look, how you access the information, what it looks like. So yeah, there are lots of changes that are constantly ongoing with these types of permits. Pretty much any city that has a wastewater plant has one of these. If it's ponds or a plant or whatever it may be, they have a sanitary discharge system that requires a permit to discharge. A little bit of background, the permit expired, like I said, about 4 years ago, started the reissuance process 2 years ago. It was put on hold because of a water quality rulemaking that was being undertaken. Class 3 and 4 waters rulemaking was being revised and reviewed by the NPCA because they knew that it was based on outdated science. That science was updated, went through a rigorous process within the state, the NPCA, to receive public comment and feedback from people. There was one night where they were receiving testimony from folks. It lasted for over 6 hours. As you can imagine, that can be some pretty painful stuff to sit through. But ultimately, the PCA decided to move forward with the rulemaking. In essence, ultimately, what it ended up doing is it simplified our permit. The existing permit that we have compared to the new permit, it looks different, but fundamentally it's the same information. That information that's included within our new permit, generally the rules are the same. The monitoring schedules, what we discharge, how our system is made up, really it doesn't change a lot. But when they do reissue those permits and review those, they look at new water quality standards and new information that they've collected within watersheds to see if new limits are needed. As I walk through the information here, it'd be helpful to just kind of see what we're talking about. The salty parameter limits that we were being proposed to have were unachievable. There's lots of cities that were receiving those limits based on the outdated standards that weren't able to achieve those. So no matter what type of technology you put in, there were some efforts being done within communities to reduce the amount of like softeners in your community, or doing centralized RO softening, those types of things to reduce salt within our discharges. A lot of that information that was done and collected over the years, as they garnered and collected more and more data, they started to realize that some of this wasn't practical for the type of water quality uses that they were applying those rules to. Existing standards were based on outdated science, and the compliance schedules and their variances were required because of that standard and the rules that were in existence. Once they were able to revise those, the old standards basically went away. They went to more of a narrative standard, basically stating that over time, as data, we still have to monitor, we still have to collect that information, but if it shows that there's downstream impacts from our discharge for those things, that in the future there may be things that the city needs to do, to reduce that. Doing outreach, working within the community to reduce the amount of salty materials that we're receiving at our wastewater plant. The Headworks project also required that we look at doing something permitting sooner than later. As I said, our permit reissuance was put on hold because of the standard rulemaking. Because we needed to move forward with our Headworks project, we couldn't wait any longer. Fortunately, those two kind of aligned perfectly. They were already in the midst of the rulemaking process. We were hoping the rulemaking would get done before we had to move forward with the permit reissuance. We started the permit reissuance. The project began. We knew that we had to phase the project properly so that the permit was issued prior to actually switching over equipment. That still remains the case. We haven't delayed the permit reissuance at all. The project continues to go forward. Recently, back in July, early July, the Mpcs actually posted the rule change onto the state register. So we were able to formally adopt that rule, that standard. And then the city was able to request that the Mpcs remove that language from our permit, so we no longer are required to have a compliance schedule. We're no longer required to do those types of things with limits in our permit. And really, ultimately, numeric limits is what drives compliance within a permit. If you don't meet that number, you pay a fine, or if you routinely don't meet a number, then you have to enter into some sort of schedule of compliance or some sort of a penalty with the Mpcs. So by removing those limits, we relieved ourselves of a lot of those liabilities, especially if they were unachievable. It was super important. And the Mpcs did that review. They removed those things, so we're in a good place that way. Otherwise, in the class 3 and 4 standards, if we weren't able to meet those limits, a variance would have been required. It's an expensive process, a long, timely process. So fortunately, once again, we were able to avoid that as well. The other item that's new within the permit is phosphorus. We currently do have a phosphorus limit, but that phosphorus limit is 1 milligram per liter. That is a daily average. So over the course of the month, we collect so many samples per week. Those sample results are averaged from our effluents, so that if we are under 1.0 milligrams per liter on our phosphorus, we're compliant. The new permit limits that are being proposed by the Mpcs are 0.32. Basically 1/3 of what our current discharge limits are. Keep in mind, 15 years ago, we didn't have a phosphorus limit. The MBR, chemical addition, all those types of things that have been done back in 2008 were done largely in part to comply with the phosphorus limit. So we were able to meet and maintain that 1.0 phosphorus limit, but with new information as it was collected through the TMDL and data that's collected downstream of our discharge, it was determined that we had to go even further. The river's still impaired. The Mpcs, through their water qualities division, their standards division, their limits division, they all work together to determine what that new limit needs to be. Ultimately, that 0.32 isn't actually what we need to achieve. That's what the required limit is. And knowing that to meet that limit, we're going to be less than that every month. 0.15 is actually the number that we need to achieve the waste load allocation. So could really get in the weeds here, WLAs, Npdes, all those types of things, but ultimately, to meet a 0.32 limit, we're gonna have to treat lower than that, and the Mpcs realizes that. So they set that limit a little bit higher, knowing that we will probably more than likely achieve that if we're being compliant with that permit limit. The waste load allocation, as I noted, as a 0.15 target, ultimately is what necessitates that low phosphorus limit. With phosphorus, as I said, with the salty parameters, the compliance schedule that we needed, since we can't achieve that new limit now, we'll have to look at all types of alternatives to see what we can do to try to get below that 0.32 limit. So within the new draft permit, there's a compliance schedule, extends out roughly about 9 years. It will probably be into not even the next permit cycle, potentially even the one beyond that. What we're going to be looking at are a number of different alternatives, from point to non-point trading. As an example, that would mean we might do something stormwater related relative to a pond that could reduce phosphorus, that we could then take credit for on the wastewater side, so that we don't have to reduce our phosphorus load at wastewater side so much. If we can do a number of those different things together, we'll be evaluating that, but if we can do that without having to do plant improvements, spend lots of capital to try to meet those limits, we can potentially offset the amount of phosphorus that we need to remove at the wastewater plant through other means. So that's one thing we'll be looking at. The other alternative too is actually looking at what our current plant configuration is capable of getting down to. Can we achieve that limit with what we currently have? It's another big step in the process. We've already started that process to determine, can we do it chemically? Can we do it through different operations within our facility? Is that achievable? That'll be another big component of the compliance schedule. We'll have to do periodic reports back to the Mpca to show the progress that we're making to achieve that limit. Ultimately, any new limit that we can't achieve must be met as soon as possible. It's an important distinction. If we determine 3 years from now that we can implement things internally within our plant with the configuration we have and we can achieve that limit, we need to do that right away. We don't get the full 9 years. But if we determine we can't, we go through the trading potential, looking at point-on-point source trading. We determine, hey, through a combination of that in our plant, we can't achieve it. The next step is to look at plant improvements within the facility to see what we will have to do from an engineering basis to design a system that can routinely meet that limit. So, long drawn-out process, lots of data collection, lots of different avenues that we'll have to be working on to get to that limit. Fortunately, we have time. The PCA has been very, very good to work with, their technical staff, the permit writers, and working to negotiate ultimately what Hutchinson needs to be able to achieve those limits for what's best within the South Fork Crow River watershed. Otherwise, if you have any other questions, like I said, it's almost 100 pages of documentation. The bulk of it's the same as what we currently have. A few things that are different. We have a change in mercury monitoring as an example, but that doesn't really affect the functionality or the structure of the permit, or doesn't necessarily pose a legal liability for the city. Those types of things we look at very closely. We talk to the Mpca about that. Are there things that we can do to remove that? Does it have to be so stringent? I mean, this has been a long process over a couple years to ultimately try to come to a term here that I think is achievable, something that we can live with, something we can work with them on, and ultimately get to that new lower limit and maintain compliance with our entire facility discharge. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions. It's worth noting too, the permit was put on public notice at the state last Tuesday, the 17th. It's a 60-day public notice period. Once the public notice closes, we have roughly about 2 weeks to respond to any comments that we receive. And then after that, the PCA issues the permit. At that point, we'll have a new active permit. So with that, any questions? Be happy to answer.
So John, maybe just for the public's knowledge, we basically have 2 permits that govern basically the water that we put into the watershed of the Crow River, correct? One is this one for our wastewater plant. The other one, you touched on this I think about a month ago, is our MS4 permit, which is mainly for storm runoff.
Correct.
So, and I think it's important for the public to realize that, because, and I've shared this before too, so that, you know, some of those rules from the state dictate, you know, what type of plant we have to have. And the other dictate certain types of requirements we need to have in regards to zoning, building permits. You know, sometimes we hear complaints about, well, I can go build in this community and I don't have to do this. Well, you're not MS4 city, you don't have a river running through your community, and you don't have the state telling you, you have to put these implementations on that impact builders. And so I know sometimes, you know, those are the complaints that we hear, is we have so many more requirements. Some of that is government pushing down requirements for us to keep the waters clean, which I think we've all agreed is an important aspect of living here in Hutchinson.
Absolutely. It's also an important distinction too relative to that example. Glencoe's phosphorus limit isn't the same as ours. They look at individual reaches of each river, each lake, wherever those discharge points are, to see what is the water quality there, what is it downstream, what's that load, how much needs to be removed to be able to restore that water body to an unimpaired type of status. So Hutchinson on the South Fork Crow River doesn't have the same discharge limit as Delano does, as Rockford does, as anyone within the watershed. It's really specific to the area immediately below our discharge point, or a couple stream reaches below that. So that complicates it even more. So it's really a struggle to see, a community in a different town that's got a 1, and they can achieve that. We can achieve that with the structures that we have now. Sometimes because of what the water quality shows and the data supports, that's not good enough. So it forces us to ultimately try to do more to reduce our impact.
Anything else for John? Good job.
I guess and John basically touched on this in the one bullet point, or touched on the potential plant, upgrades, project plans, this last bullet point that were on the handout. But just to note that, obviously from staff standpoint, we're going to do everything, in our abilities, as John mentioned, to avoid that. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if that's necessary, because we have a parallel discussion going on the rate front currently, obviously, on the water wastewater rates, any potential plant upgrades, if they're deemed necessary 5, 9, potentially into the next permit cycle, 10 years out, like John mentioned, those aren't included in our rate analysis at this point in time. So just want to make note of that. But on the other hand, we're in as we've noted during the rate study discussions, we're in a healthy cash position as, currently today, and we foresee ourselves being in a healthy cash position going forward with the projects that we have programmed over the next 20 years. So, want to make note of that. So, and who knows, the honest truth of it, the next permit cycle, we might be dealing with different parameters.
We might be at a 0.1 instead of a 0.32.
There's a lot of unknowns to this over the course of time with the PCA.
Yeah, and kind of to add to that is we've known this proposed 0.32 limit during the 5 summer months for several years, since 2019 when they started working on reissuance of the permit. And that was based on the TMDL and the waste load allocation of that section of the river. So some of the projects that have already occurred in the past couple of years at the wastewater plant have had that in mind, that that's coming. And so when we did the Arrow 2 switch over in the oxidation ditches, that was to help us do some trialing to enact some biological nutrient removal possibilities to help reduce the phosphorus naturally instead of all by chemical addition. And so hopefully some of these projects we've already undertaken have set us in a position where we can, one, start doing trialing earlier. So basically we kind of have this 4-year of a compliance schedule. The first 4 years are basically see what you can do. And if you can't do it, then they leave that last 4 years to start engineering, designing, and spend money. And we don't want to do that. So we're in a good position to start trialing almost immediately. So that gives us the full 4 or 5 years in the front end of this to perform that and hopefully achieve it without spending capital, or a lot of it.
All right, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Presentation of the City of Hutchinson 2020 year-end report.
Mayor and Council, I'll take this one. I'll say this has probably been a goal of mine since probably 2016 or 2017, was to try to provide a resource for the public to just learn a little bit more about what goes on here at the city from a year-to-year basis. Council, you guys have been used to every year you've got departments that come in and give an annual report, and a lot of times they have maybe a written report that they're given to you, of which we keep and we track, and ends up getting split out amongst all the different departments. And so what so one of the goals I had was to be a little bit more transparent to the public, was to try to put all that information in one document. And this is our first goal. There's still some work I want to do to it, but I included it in your packet tonight. It's 150 pages. It's got most of our department reports that kind of highlight the past year. It's got information in regards to, what's our tax rate? How does it compare to other cities within the county? How does it compare to other cities in the state? And how does it compare to other cities in our economic region that we look at, which is our outstate regional centers? And so try to be a little bit more transparent. Like I always tell people, I think one of the things that frustrates me the most is roughly 90% of what I hear out in public about what we do here is factually inaccurate. And so how are we going to try to properly educate the public on what we do here? And this is just one step of hopefully many to try to do that. And so kind of wanted to get this in front of you, see if you had any comments, if there's anything else you'd like to see. This is kind of our first step. We're going to build upon this report in the years to come. After tonight's meeting, we're going to make this public. We'll put it on our website. We'll probably try to do a social media blast to get it out there. But it's really, as far as I know in the history of the city, our first comprehensive report looking back at least the past year of everything that took place within the city. Like I said, it's August. I'm hoping in future years it comes out a little bit earlier, but got to get together first. So just kind of want to let the council know and obviously let the public know this will come out to the community for them to look at it. So if you had any thoughts, I'd gladly take it and we'll look to improve upon it in the future. But yeah, I'm happy we're able to at least be able to present something to the public.
So Matt, did you put it all together yourself or like a lot of staff?
Well, Melissa did. No, really what we did was I had each one of the departments kind of put their department report together. Yeah. And then I basically passed it on to Melissa and she kind of compiled the big document. There was some, I think the executive summary was put together by myself, but most of this is the work. A lot of it they're already doing. When they were coming and giving their annual report, they already had it on paper. And so what we decided to do is let's put this all into one document. So if somebody wants to look at a report, they're not having to find 10 different reports for 10 different departments. We'll try to put it into one document and provide that. We've shared other information that we haven't. People always say, well, why don't you go out and get grants and donations? Well, we do. And we get a lot of money every year. And so now we start putting that to paper for people to see. This is what we're taking in on a year-to-year basis for that. So yeah, I would say it's a collaborative effort of really all the directors and Melissa kind of putting all this together to come up with this document. So,
it looks good.
So yeah, we had I think the city of Burnsville had done something, so we were able to kind of at least have a format to go off of to put something together. So
good education tool.
I hope so. So, or at the very least, hope it sparks some questions that we can answer for people.
It's more exciting to read than the audit report.
I could have included that, but I didn't.
That's it. Big 300 page.
Any other comments about the year-end report?
None.
Great. We have governance, City of Hutchinson financial reports and investment report for July 2021. Public Arts Commission minutes from June 8th, 2021. Hutchinson Housing and Redevelopment Authority Board minutes from July 20th, 2021. Planning Commission minutes from July 20th, 2021. Chief Gipperson, do you have anything for us tonight?
I have nothing new, but I do want to make a public announcement once again. So,
I was going to bring it up when I talked, but could you touch a little bit on, all the stuff that's been going on at our parks, or
Sure. So I believe it's Rotary Park has probably received the most damage. Unfortunately, we have some unsupervised juveniles, I believe, that are causing the damage. We haven't been able to identify who they are at this point, but I guess I think this is kind of the direction you're going. Remind parents, young adults, juveniles to, cost money to replace that stuff, so please don't do that.
And I'll just add, as hopefully a deterrent for any future decisions that people want to make, we're exploring the options for security upgrades, so security cameras, and right now there's not internet, so you can guess at that site because it's a public park, and so we're looking at exploring, because unfortunately I think that's the one park that consistently gets vandalized in a year in, year out. I mean, we have issues all across, but
Correct.
that one seems to be a little bit more, and so we're exploring options too. So I give everybody a heads up, there's gonna come a point where we're gonna end up catching you, and so we're looking to get to that direction.
For citizens out there, if you're, by a park, maybe keep an eye on your park.
Yeah, absolutely, and as a reminder, we do seek restitution when we do catch people, so if the fine isn't enough, you will repay the damage you've done, hopefully.
So what you do with security camera, you have to have internet.
Well, people say, we'll put a trail camera up. Well, as you guys can imagine, you get a busy park. Yeah. And so, so yeah, we could put a trail camera up. I think we'd spend weeks just looking through all the pictures to, so I think we're looking at, for the type of systems where it would make sense, internet or some sort of internet connection would be ideal.
I was gonna try to catch Andy, and I mentioned it to you, Matt, with just trying to see what the dollar amount it is that, people have been causing the damage.
It's not something that we necessarily track. I'm going to be honest, Andy estimated it's probably less than $5,000, but that's just the damage. You have the time of staff, that we don't calculate, and just really the site it puts on the community.
Right.
So,
and as far as I'm concerned, the disrespect is probably the most frustrating part about the whole thing, so.
Yeah, try to have nice, yeah.
And another thing to remember, our fountain in our park here.
Yep.
Just last week, I'm walking out of the jewelry store that faces the park, and there's 2 teenagers in there bouncing around, and it's like, I said something to them and they immediately got out, but, you have to realize that you're ruining what is in there. There's a lot of mechanical things in that fountain, and even though the signs are posted, those kids are still going in there.
Yep.
I realize it's 90 degrees outside, but that's not our splash pad.
Yeah.
Or our pool.
Sorry to sidetrack.
No problem.
I wanted to bring that up and get your input on it, so thank you.
Yep, just just want to make the announcement publicly once more. Our communication center will be closed. The call taking and dispatching will be going away starting the 31st of this month, and then hopefully the full consolidation will take place on the 1st of September. Again, we still will provide 24/7 service. We still are providing lobby hours between the hours of 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. And you're still able to get an officer to come to the police department and meet you after 11 p.m. with the touch of a button. So we do have a window treatment that's going up that will explain all that on the front door, or near the front door of the PD. We just don't want to put it up too early because then that confuses people as well. So the community will be seeing that sometime in the next probably week or so.
Anything else for the chief?
Sure. So the park patrol, the bicycle patrol was put on hold this year, correct?
We do have 2, normally we staff it with 4, and we only received 2 applicants this year, unfortunately. So their frequency that they're visiting parks is a lot less than they have been in past years.
Sure, I just haven't seen them as much this year because there's half as many of them.
Right, exactly.
Because I would think that helps a lot, just having.
I think in the past it has helped a great deal, and then nothing last year. Obviously didn't help the situation, and then with only 2 this year. So I guess I'll maybe put out another appeal next year around March, April, if you want. If you're thinking that's something you want to try to do for the city, make sure they put in your application.
There we go.
All right.
Thank you, chief.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Tim, do you have anything else for us?
Nope, sir.
No? Can't?
few quick project updates. Highway 722 Montana crossing. Yeah, things are moving along. Obviously, the poles and mast arms are up. The signal heads are up. We're going to have the technical consultant out tomorrow to actually fire it up along with the electrical contractor, obviously, and we'll see how it goes then. If all goes well, the traffic control might get pulled pretty quickly and it might go into service fairly quickly thereafter. So, yeah, and I think like we've spoken before, and we've been talking about this project forever, but yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory, so, you know, and user-friendly, and I think the biggest thing we're going to need to watch is hopefully there's no hijinks with it, you know, obviously, with it being activated and not utilized properly. But yeah, like anything else, like we were just talking about, we'll see what happens. Other than that, pavement management program down by the rec center, we should be paving tomorrow, and hopefully a couple days of paving Wednesday, Thursday. Obviously the weather doesn't look too good for us on Thursday, give or take, but yeah, hopefully by the end of the week we'll be done paving down there. If not, it'll spill into next week. So that's going well. Jefferson and First out here, everything's ready to pave, but we have an issue with the general contractor's paving subcontractor and the size of their paver not meeting our specifications. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there. Their final completion date is Saturday, September 11th, yeah, which is, you know, a week before Arts and Crafts. And you know, we're hearing from the contractor, the general contractor, that is, they're gonna meet that, and yeah, so we're gonna hold them to that, and hopefully we can work through this this paving contractor issue. And otherwise, quickly, and you might see this happen relatively soon, is we're looking at the gravel bar, the sand bar, if you want to call it, just to the east of the Highway 15 Main Street Bridge. Basically between the two riffles east of the bridge, the smaller riffles. You may have remembered, oh, I think we looked it up, it's been about 7-8 years ago. There's that sandbar, that gravel bar almost stretched completely across the river channel. It started to develop again, extending off of the south bank between those two riffles. So obviously with the flow conditions, we're going to work with a local contractor and just try to take out what's there at this point in time.
So you're talking just off of Fireman's Park?
Yep, exactly. Yep. It's not near as large. It's probably a quarter, maybe a third what it was years ago, but obviously with basically no flow in the river right now, it's a good time to get in there and get it taken care of.
DNR's comfortable with.
Yep, we got the DNR's blessing again, so yeah, we're just working with the local contractor, figure out some time and material scenarios just to get it taken care of. Don't see a lot of cost.
DNR's blessing, did you go in with a little tear in
We've got a good relationship with the hydrologist.
So do they just do that with a big backhoe from shore, or would they just do a big backhoe from shore?
Yeah, more like it'll be a larger backhoe, or specifically a long reach backhoe scenario. So shouldn't have to get down that bank. And I mean, if you're familiar with that area, there's some erosion happening on that south bank. So we might try to work with the DNR. We're going to pose this question to them and take some of that rock material, the larger, more gravel type material there, and put it on that bank. So maybe try to shore up that bank in that area. And lastly, water restrictions are still in effect, odd even, and we're just talking about it today up at the water plant, we're still seeing quite a bit of water use, so we want to, minimize that as much as possible. So
Isn't it just time? I think it's just time of day.
Oh,
You probably think of your own community. So.
I'm thinking of my own place, yeah.
I was gonna go deeper, must have missed something here.
No, it's the time of day, yes.
Yeah, time of day. Yeah.
And we're not actively enforcing, the staff is monitoring it. We basically have reminder cards and such, so, but we are, even with the recent rains, we're seeing some spikes. We'll see what happens here, maybe this week will help the cause as the rest of the week plays out. And yeah, at the end of the day, we don't want to have to report our water use and go to even stricter measures, I guess, going into the fall.
So Kent, repeat those water restrictions for everyone.
9 to 6.
9 to 6, yes. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say there's been a little misconception because I've had people say, you guys have a water ban. We don't have a ban in place. It's a restriction basically saying between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. You can't be watering your yard, watering vehicles and whatnot. I will caution people, if they got concerns, call us know, because we do have some private wells in the community, people that are on private wells, and those are, you have to send them a DNR if you got concerns about or questions about that. But yeah, otherwise it's 9 to 6 basically. We're asking residents not to be watering grass or any water lines. So.
Is that it, Kent?
That is it.
Mr. Sabora?
Nothing else tonight.
Alrighty. Let's see. Hey, Chad, you're up.
I didn't have anything extra tonight.
Okay. Mary?
I don't have too much, except I want to just thank all the people that worked hard to make the McLeod County Fair a good year. I worked at the gates and it was busy. I think they had a pretty good turnout.
I think they must have set a record because
it was busy.
The days I was there was just, and I heard that the food vendors ran out of food at the end of each day.
So it takes a village to get that fair all pulled together, and I think they all did a great job. So thanks to all of them.
Well, I think Melissa's happy it's over because she gets her husband back now for a little bit. Anything else, Mary?
No, that's it.
All right, thanks. Dave?
No, I just was going to mention the county fair too, and it was great. I was there for 4 days with the Lions, and
Did you run out of food?
So.
Did you run out of food?
2 items. Cheese curd and chicken strips, but otherwise, mini donuts are always a mainstay, so it worked out.
Sold a few of them, I take it?
Yeah, probably close to 1,000 bags maybe, and so it was good. Yeah. It was first 2 days were a little bit on the hot side, but they were a little bit shy of proceeds. But other than that, I made it up the next 2 days. So we were very pleased, and I'm thinking a lot of other people were very pleased too. So it sounded good. I talked to one of the people that is on the. I don't know if he's on the fair board or the exec committee, one or the other, but they're calling around to see if they think the 4 day is a mainstay fair, or if they want to go back to 5 days. But apparently they're giving a 2 day or 2 year shot on
the
4 days.
4 day one. Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I don't have anything, and appreciate everybody that was there at the fair for sure. And people were pretty courteous. Parking lots were full. People at the stop sign. I saw three people go through the stop sign, the 4-way stop, and I don't think they even saw the prepare to stop. They shot through there like a bullet. But that was the only thing I saw, and so it did happen. Again, thank God there wasn't anybody coming from the other direction trying to pull out in front of them. So, but yeah, thanks to everybody for the fair. That was good.
All right, thanks, Dave. Pat? Nothing?
Went to the fair, it was good.
Had some mini donuts.
Stopped at the stop sign.
Matt?
Just a couple announcements or reminders. First off, city offices are closed Monday, September 6th for the Labor Day holiday. And then just a reminder, we do have another budget workshop prior to our next meeting at 4 o'clock on September 14th. We'll be going through the preliminary budget and tax levy for 2022. So otherwise, that's it for me.
All right. Actually, I got put Troy Polis on the airport commission, if that's all right with everyone. He's he's a Mound resident, and I checked with Mr. Savora, and we can have somebody from out of town as long, well, he does have a hangar out there and has an airplane in it, so he has skin in the game. So if that's all right with everybody, I'll appoint him to the airport commission. The only other thing I had is that, I've been around to a few of our restaurants and stuff, and just reminder of everybody, be courteous to the people that are working, to the staff that they do have, because I just seen another one of our establishments, they're cutting back a day because they have a lack of staff. So just a reminder to be courteous to the staff that are working, because they're getting burnt out, I think. So, but with that, we're gonna move into closed section, man.
Correct.
Alrighty, next item on the agenda is a closed session to develop or consider an offer for sale of real estate property identified as 125 First Avenue Southwest. I would now entertain a motion to go into closed session to discuss the possibility purchase of real estate identified as 125 First Avenue Southwest.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Dave, second by Mary, to go into closed session to discuss sale of real estate. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Once again.